This content is brought to you by BEC Financial Technologies, developing and operating IT for Danish banks.
So, I'm Maciej Judycki, and I have spent years reporting and creating QA metrics. Some useful and some misleading, and some that are looking great on the dashboards, but honestly are not showing the quality or even the regression in our teams. And that's why I will be moderating this panel. In QA, we measure a lot. Test cases, defects, coverage, pass rates. But here's the problem. Not everything we measure is actually helping us to define the quality. So today's panel, QA metrics that matters and the ones that mislead, is about separating the misleading and the noisy numbers with the ones that deliver the value. So let's challenge our metrics, not just report them. I don't have the answers, but I have the questions. And who will answer those questions? Let me introduce our panelists. So first, Alona Kovalenko. Over 8 years of experience in quality assurance and in quality assurance teams management. Passionate about psychology, as we could hear in the first presentation today. Also, outside of work, she enjoys driving, even the extreme one, when it's possible. Second person, Artur Ziółkowski, QA lead, active in QA area since 2012. He specialized in designing and developing automate testing frameworks using Python and robot framework. Privately, a passionate motorcycle enthusiast. And our final panelist, Vishal Sinha, solution architect with over 19 years of experience, currently working in intersection of enterprise architecture, mainframe modernization, and test data quality assurance. What is interesting personally, he's trying to simplify the hardest question for his 10-year son. That's something that also, I believe, is very supportive in QA and in our area. So let's go to the main panel. We will concentrate mainly on 3 elements. First, we will discuss the metrics every one of us uses. Then we will talk about metrics that cause damage. And finally, I hope that we'll get the metrics that actually drives the better quality. So just to start, first questions to my great panelists. What metrics do you use and like the most? Alona?
Yeah, actually right now at our current project and in our team, we're not using that much metrics. Except for test progress, I was thinking about introducing KPIs, but realized that in our specific way of working, it doesn't bring that much value, except for tracking the progress itself, as usually what metrics are aimed for. It's either improving the process or improving the outcome, the product, or give some information to stakeholders. Since we have different projects and we're not doing that much of repetitive work, it just would bring much mess into our regular work and just give us extra useless work. That's why we're just tracking maybe some risks coverage and the progress when we're working on some project. I guess currently that's it.
Okay, thank you. Hi at the beginning. So from my point of view, because we need to understand to each other who we are and who is working in which project. So comes from the embedded, and currently I'm working on the banks area, where we are measuring many different things, but we are working on the application inside of the bank. Yeah, so it's not the like end customer applications. So from our point of view, we of course measure the number of defects, which we found during different stages of execution of tests. So it's like on the system test, SIT, end-to-end, etc., etc. So we split the found defects for different area. Also, we split the defects which we found to application, which we found the defects. So it depends. It is our application, or this is some kind of problem with the integration. If it is a problem with the integration, so which application? Because it may be the case that you have the problem with the integration, but always with the same application. Yeah? So the risk here is that always the one integration point is failing. Yeah? So we measure the defects from our side. So also we measure, of course, the defects which comes from the production on the same way, to be sure that because if it comes something from the production, it can be assigned to our team, but not always. Yeah? Also, we measure, of course, like during any type of testing and during the RTRs or test runs, etc. So pass ratio, it's obvious. We are measuring the test coverage. So we are mapping the business requirements to the code. Yes. So we have some kind of ideas how we are play with our scripts that it's allowed to us to map the requirements from the business point of view. So if someone just asks me where is the scripts to cover this business requirements, I can just in 5 minutes find the scripts and just run it. Yeah. So we are also measure the test coverages. We also measure different things, like, because it depends who you are and how your organization looks like. In my cases is that we have a lot of different tooling around us, yeah, which we are developed by self, but also we are using the tools which is inside of the bank, let's say it. And sometimes these tools inside of the bank doesn't work, yeah, which we are using for the automation. So we are also raising the defects for our automation framework, yeah. It can be for our part, but also for the other stakeholders which we use. Yeah. We also
Artur, if I may.
Sorry. Okay.
Stop a little
maybe
bit.
Later.
So yeah, let's go to.
Impressive.
Yeah, very.
Sorry. I will be quick. As an architect, I actually don't work with so many quality metrics. I miss them and I will talk about them later, but there are definitely few quality matrices which we are using when we are working with the different teams, because as a test data management team, we need to integrate with the different teams and catch up with their way of working. So there are several matrices which different team uses. The few common ones which we usually encounter is the test defect matrix and the code coverage matrix. And so these are and one matrix which we maintain is like the data coverage matrix, where we want to ensure that all the data requirements for a specific team or domain is fulfilled. So these are the three matrices which we use.
Okay, thank you. So I will have a following question, because some of you mentioned that you measure the number of defects that you have found during the test execution, during SITs, UATs. But my question will be, do you confront it with the defects coming from the client? And maybe if you are doing something with that?
So, like I mentioned, the defects which comes from the production, we also split for different area. So it depends if it's a bug related to our application or they just saw these bugs on our application. But it's a key question here: is a bug for us or is a bug for our integration? Yeah? So we also split these things to be sure that the bugs which comes from the production, it's not for us, because you can have 10 bugs from the production, but 9 of them is from the integration, but the integration is not ready for you, yeah? So it's not problem from your point of view as application, yeah? So we measure it to be sure that we don't see any problems with my application, which an area where I am working, yeah?
Thanks. Alona, do you, or?
No, since we're not right now measuring, I would forward the mic to
Production cases, okay. As I mentioned, I belong to test data management team. My clients is the BEC development teams. So when they come with a defect and they say, this data, I needed this data, but you didn't provide it me. And then I ask them, okay, can you tell me what all data do you need for your application testing? And frankly speaking, most of the time, I don't get the real full answer so that I can provide them exactly 100% data what they need. Even though they are testing from several years, this end-to-end data lineage, what we call, is sometimes I think is still like something which has to be developed. So we do receive the bugs, and for us, those are like production bugs, because for us, the development teams are the clients, and we solve it together because providing data is our responsibility, but the application, the integrations lies in the hand of the development team. So,
okay, thank you, Vishal. And now maybe moving a little bit more. As I started my career as a tester, I had a situation that I have tested one of the changes for the big Polish insurance company. I have prepared the test cases, executed them, 100% test rate. Then we moved to UATs. The client used the same test cases. Everything was, of course, wonderful, but suddenly we went on production. And the first day we are having the high-level critical issue that the data are not being saved in the database. So have you had such a situation? And how do you approach to the test pass rate? Because in my case, it was totally misleading, not showing the quality. And we get the feedback pretty fast. Who would like to?
I think that it can show a good picture of the progress of the activity that you're doing, but it doesn't give that much information about risks covered, for example. And talking about funny situations, I recently was talking with my colleague, and he shared one funny story that they faced a bug at first on test environment, then it seemed to be fixed. Then they caught another issue, similar one, on UAT. They fixed it. Then they reopened because again on test it appeared. Then it appeared on UAT, disappeared on test. But so the trick was that developers just commented the code, the piece of code, at first on test environment, then uncommented it, commented on UAT, and then uncommented. So you see the pass rate can be very good, right? But the reality is it doesn't show you the real picture if you don't take into account some other things. Like, I think that it makes sense to include bug criticality, first of all, and to see these trends. If they are repetitive, then we should pay attention to it, because test pass rate, okay, we did some job, yeah, it showed us the progress. But if we have completed, for example, 90% of planned testing, and we have no time to continue further, some part left untested. How critical this part is, we have no idea. So that's my point.
Okay, I will try to say something from the different, let's say, side of coin. From my point of view, if you see the pass ratio is green, it means green. Of course, you can have a problem like you mentioned that someone just commented the code, but it's a human issue, yeah? You can never, it can be done, yeah? But still, it's a human issue which you can review on the pull request, improve the process. You can do many things inside of the team to do not make it again, yeah? If you think about the cases from the beginning, it's the question, where is the bug, yeah? If the bug is seriously not my application, we can say it's not my fault, yeah, or our team, yeah, because we did our job, yeah. There is missing requirements, missing integration, missing test scenario which comes from the IT analysis. Depends of the project. Yes, it's very long topic, but from my point of view, I would like to avoid this, let's say, statements that we are saying that as a QAs. Remember who you are, yeah? As a QA says that, okay, we have a green regression, we have a 100 pass ratio, but we don't trust these results, yeah? We cannot allow to these operations, yeah, and inside of any type of team, yeah? So these two examples is just, we can say it depends, but from my point of view, if I am and of course I care about the way of working and how our works, etc., and about our automations, I trust my results, yeah? Because in otherwise, what we are doing, yeah?
I beg to differ a bit here, and from my perspective, as Alona mentioned, that this test coverage, like how many test cases got passed, is a matrices which tells us several things. Okay, at one place it is telling me that whatever test cases I have planned, I have successfully executed them. But if that percentage is not 100%, we create some doubts. We leave some space for application to break, which we might even don't know. So we might have passed 95 test coverages, and as an architect, if I listen that my team has passed 95% test coverage, okay, I put it this way. If my son comes and say he scored 95% marks in maths exam, I will be super proud and happy. I will think, but I will not communicate to him that where are those 5%, right? That's the typical parent mindset, we all know. But when it comes to this matrices, where I see as a leader or as an architect, as a person who is responsible for quality, I say that I see 95 test coverages. I should question that, okay, 95% is fine, but what about those 5%? Why we cannot execute them? What are the restrictions? Maybe we see, for example, some test cases can be executed only in a specific environment or like that due to missing integration. But leaving it just like that might come back to us as a bigger impact, and it can cause more severe damage and time consumption as it would have when we have tried to cover each and every test cases beforehand.
Okay, so as I can understand, so we are going in the way that Alona mentioned, that we should have some kind of risk assessment before, but also think about measurements about acceptance criteria coverage, code coverage, and how to approach.
I would like to just add that this missing 5 points which you mentioned as a failing test cases, it's not the options that you just skip them, yeah? You need to investigate them, make the judgments, is the defect or not. If not, then rerun or even manually test it. On the RTR time, when you're making the final reports, everything need to be 100%. There is no any space to say it from my point of view. And in the project where I was working, there was no any space to say it, okay, we executed 1,000 test cases, but 10 of them is failing and we just doesn't know why. Yeah, so from my point of view, on the report time, we know all of the things, yeah? All is a bug, or rerun, or mark as a done, so painting the grass to the green as some kind of manual retest, yeah? So it's obvious from my point of view.
I still would like to challenge slightly the idea about if we covered 100%, you're confident in what you have tested, because still there are 7 principles of testing, and one of them says that exhaustive testing is impossible, and we can never be 100% sure in the outcome. So we still may increase the confidence in the product, but we cannot say that, yeah, once I completed this test run, even if I know what I've tested, we cannot say that there is no way to find any bug.
But I didn't say that we can test all of the things, yeah? Because it's, from the QA point of view, as you probably knows, there is no options to test all of the combinations. So it's written in the stone, yeah, from the QA point of view. So obvious, it's a natural way of working that you cannot test everything, yeah? But you need to test everything what was assigned to your team as a requirements, and you make the agreement with someone what will be the scope of this test to cover these requirements. Yeah? This is portfolio which you need to take care. Yeah? If something blow up in the area which you discuss, or you just missed it on the requirements review, it's a human error again. If you review something but decided that take a risk because it's low priority or even maybe not impossible on production, but it's gonna happen, okay, again, problem. But this is okay.
Okay, so maybe I will stop a little bit, and maybe let's talk about the metrics that cause damage. Of course, we met some of during now, and we have different discussion, different opinion how to approach. For example, I have met some companies that they are checking the testers by the number of bugs being found by them. What do you think about it? Maybe first somebody from the audience. Do you agree that we should measure, let's say, the efficiency of the tester by the number of bugs found? Anybody?
You will pay to me for any raised bug or bugs which will be fixed? Because then no problem. I would like to.
Yeah, I met the company that is paying for any additional money for any raise. And for me, it's something wrong.
Okay, I never hear about such solutions, any type of companies. And I believe it. If I think about it, never I saw any let's judgments of our effects of works in that way. Yeah.
I would like to ask this question from the managers who is managing this team. Will he be happy to see more defects, or he or she will be happy to see no defect? And this is a question because normally what happened when we see the defects count less and less, we start believing that our product is full of quality. And I think in these terms, the QAs are negatively judged. And because the more defects a QA produces, the more burden it is on the management, on leadership, on developers, and somehow they hate it in like silence. And
And what about the situation that, let's say, the team is saying that there are no defects? In my case, I'm a little bit worried about the QA quality.
some people will say we have no defects, so let's put it in production, and whatever defects we will receive are the reviewer's comment. So let's take it then. But as we all are already saying, everything has to be assessed based on risk. Sometimes a full company stake is a full company position is on stake if there is, for example, a defect which can transfer, for example, money into illegal accounts unintentionally, or like we are working in banking industry, so we should be extra cautious. Like if I would have been working in some social networking company, or if I would have been working some company where compliance or rules are not that hard, I can think about this. But working for a fintech company, I think I should be more responsible in at least encouraging to find more and more defect.
Alona, what's your view on this?
Number of defects logged. Purely just this metrics. What does it show us? Okay, as I am SQA, for example, have the requirement to submit as many bugs as possible, or to submit as less bugs as possible. What does it show overall? If you need more bugs, no worries. I will increase as much as you want. I will log every minor issue, even they will be duplicating themselves. But what for to do it? If it's not comparison of, for example, criticality or in different phases or environments, I don't see the value of it, except for maybe even creating competition inside the team, right? So I don't see really a lot of value in it, unless it's mixed with some other metrics that really will show you the other picture.
Okay, so maybe quick voting from the audience. Just a question. How many of you are doing the risk analysis before preparing the test cases? 2 persons? 3, 4, 5? So the others, you don't include the risk analysis. Okay, interesting.
It's also in our head thinking about what is the issue, what will be damage if we won't do that. Yeah, so I think it doesn't need some kind of the paper or document.
But then how you can be sure that you cover all the elements or some of them, what kind of percentage? Because for me, for example, something not written, not safe is, I would say, not tested.
I don't follow you, because, for example, when I have, I don't know, some kind of the critical flow, yeah, I will put some kind of the steps, what I will test. I will automate them, yeah? So everything is written in here, but I don't need to include the business description that this functionality will work only if I do something, yeah? I will add some kind of the inputs, yeah, which should be at the beginning validate. If they are not proper, the test automation won't start, for example.
Okay, thank you. So maybe some Do you have some other examples of metrics that could cause damage that are being used, or you are using only the perfect ones?
Maybe I will add, I'm thinking also the number of reopened bugs. On the one hand, it can be helpful to see what we have missed, for example, in our testing, or some repetitive issue. But on the other hand, isolated, these metrics also cannot bring that much value, because it can be either due to improved testing or another quality of development. So it's hard to, without analysis, without like investigation, just pure statistics, to say something about these metrics. For me, a lot of metrics, they really need to be mixed with some other statistics, because they can be illusional, just give you the wrong real picture.
Do you agree with that, Artur? Vishal?
Like this test coverage matrix, what we were talking about, at one time, I do agree that these matrices do brings value, because we know something is getting tested, right? Somewhere. But at the same time, I completely agree that they don't bring that much value. One, instead of like test coverage, maybe we should have requirement coverage metrics, because in agile world, when we are working, we are putting this requirement as acceptance criteria in individual stories. And we are passing those acceptance criteria, moving ahead. But somewhere, all these stories might not be fulfilling all my requirements, which are defined by the strategic team, the architecture team, the PO. And so one of the matrices which I think should be complementing this test coverage should also be like, have I fulfilled all the requirements? So requirement coverage matrix should be a part of like this, supporting this test coverage.
Thank you. So maybe let's get to something better, that it's improving quality. Do you have some metrics that you believe that drives our software quality, what we are testing, to a better? Artur?
Could you repeat the question a little bit more?
So, do you have a metrics that drives the quality, that you believe in them and they are giving you added value?
If you are doing them right, yes. Yeah, of course, you can create 1,000 dummy test cases, which all of them to pass. But it's, again, human error, yeah? It should not work like that. So in the project where you design the workflow for the entire team, how they should work, yeah? The metrics bring the value, yeah? But the final judgment, is this the quality is here or not, is the production, yeah? Nothing else.
Matrices that actually drive better quality. Okay. As an architect, I wish I can have such a matrices, because I tell you, I feel that in most of the cases, architects either come in the beginning or in the end. When testers are testing, they are reporting the bugs, but they are talking mostly to the developers. They don't come to the architect. An architect is also talking mostly to the developers and neglecting the testers. This is the general trend we have seen, right? And so I want a matrices, for example, which says like architecture compliance metrics, which tells like whatever has been decided, what architectural principles has been decided before the start of this project are also carried down in the testing phase. Because who is testing the architects? I think there is no one right now. And all the decisions are taken. So, because the more we deviate from what we decided, what we start with, the more technical debt we create, right? So, in my opinion, the matrix which I think will definitely improve the quality of architects and the team is architecture compliance matrix, which ensure that at every phase of development, implementation, governance, we verify that whatever we are developing and testing is based on the architectural principles and like the values which we have decided.
Artur, Alona, do you agree with that? You have a different point of view?
Yeah, I agree totally. I think it really makes sense. And what I was thinking more is if we're talking about metrics that bring value, that we have already mentioned is, for example, to combine test progress with risks. At least to know what we have covered, what most risky areas. If we're talking about bugs, then to mix this number of bugs found with criticality, with density, with environment differentiation, for us to see some tendencies. And one more thing that came to my mind from previous job, we were just in the process of implementing automation, and we were also tracking the number of tests done by manual testing and covered by automation. But I'm thinking right now, again, we can create a lot of auto tests that will be, for example, very simple, but we may miss some risky areas, right, and critical flows. That's why I think it's also important not only to track the metrics of, for example, implemented automation cases, but also to check what areas are they checking, not to be repetitive and not to miss anything.
I can just add one more thing, which I believe it no one said. We also measure and review the close defects, yeah? Because the number of open bugs, it means nothing if you are not comparing these results with close bugs, yeah? Because you can have all the time 10 open bugs, but in the same time it's closed 100, yeah? So it shows the efforts, yeah? It shows how many time you as a QA you spend on the bugs, yeah? So when you show someone the number and trends of the open bugs, you should also compare it with the same trends at the same time with the closing number, yeah?
Thank you. A little bit, so maybe some questions from you. Yes.
So you didn't mention about the performance issue. Very often when we go to the production environment, everything is set up as on the test, on UAT environment, doesn't work. Why? Because the environment wasn't scaled for the production, because it wasn't enough, I don't know, servers, CPUs and so on, because it costs. And also maybe application wasn't scaled enough. So do you think, or maybe, I don't know if it's for the metrics, but it could be somehow to prevent in the future such problems, to have some kind of the documentation. I don't know even how, but in some way, yeah? Because it always depends when we have the application or API, which is used by many users, yeah? We cannot run such a big load on our test environment?
I believe it, Rafał Krzempa is still here. He said about that the test performance need to be executed on the same environment or with the same capability as the production. In otherwise, you have your results mean nothing. Yeah. I know, but in that case, you don't know what you are testing. Yeah, at the end, this is a critical point of performance testing from my point of view. The testing environments need to be the same as the production. In other case, you are just measure this one environment, nothing else. Yeah. Another opinion?
So yes.
I mean, I don't have that much experience with this non-functional testing, but from my point of view, like the environment that you're testing should be as close to the production environment as possible. So maybe you could approach somehow from this perspective to the problem. Not sure that it's metrics related, but it's like from the how to look at the problem.
We have next question from the audience.
Okay, hello. My question is mostly revolving about differences between how the data is perceived by the different groups of developers, also including the production. Because, for example, where somehow showing the data and showing the metrics, production uses only the open bugs. So we've got 5,000 open bugs, and they are happy because this is only 5,000 of them. But they are not including bugs that are in progress, waiting for verification and stuff like that. And when you will be using the filters for showing those metrics and stating the not closed bugs, you will be up to like 50,000, not 5,000. And how do you cope with situations like that? Like every single group in a company is trying to show the best perspective from their own view, not the actual state of the data and how the application software is at the very moment of presenting the data.
Not sure if I'm saying it right or wrong, but from my perspective, I want to say that it depends on the company, like how they want to take this all bugs as per their position in the market. For example, a pigeon closing his eyes and believing that the cat will not attack him. It's like a suicide in itself, right? So the company must pay attention to the defect leakage, what we call here, that the defects which are caught in production and not during the testing phase. So I think any company should be very cautious about these bugs.
Question: This is application which is already released. So is real cases the number?
Maybe yes, maybe not.
Okay. So I believe it from QA point of view, it's very hard to even put any new defects on the productions because it's our mindset. But it's not our job. Our job is to find all of them, and someone make the risk or take the risk and say it fine from the business point of view. We need to find them, but we are not responsibility from them to go live. Yeah. But if there will be any critical defects and production, the business will still say it that we can go live with this one, and tech support is approve it. It means that the process doesn't work. Yeah. So you can have millions of bugs. If the business is ongoing, so it's business as usual. If you have a risk assessment on all of these bugs until you go for the production, then you have a process which is working. Yeah. So this is just the number. Yeah. Which we don't like it as a QA, but still is just the number.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I'm just thinking that it's either stakeholders who would like to see this as green dashboard as possible, and the company just adheres to this, or it's the company who doesn't care that much about their authority, let's say, because it's also like the kind of responsibility, the face of the company, right? What product do they sell to stakeholders, what they are doing? And I do agree that it's not the effort of QA in solo, but it's rather about questioning the approach, why this situation happened, and then escalating it maybe.
Okay, thank you so much for this discussion. Just to summarize, I believe that there's not wrong or good, bad measures. It always depends. What kind of system do we have? Is it mobile application? Is it some banking institution? And front end, what's the cost of having the bugs, timing? So I believe everything depends on the systems and area. I also would like to thank you so much, Alona, Artur, Vishal. Thank you for this discussion. Thank you for questions and for votes. It was great to have you here.